Come to order. We'll begin our portion of the meeting for proclamations and announcements, resolutions. The first on the agenda tonight is the Oak Ridge High School Scholarship, and that will be presented by Commissioner Catherine Denenberg. Commissioner Denenberg, have the floor, please.
Jonathan? Yeah, stand, just come right up here. Commissioners, this is Jonathan Gerlach. He is the recipient for the Oak Ridge High School. Anderson County Board of Commissioners established and began contributing personal funds to a scholarship fund in 1996. This fund is set up to provide a scholarship annually to a student at each of the 3 high schools in Anderson County: Anderson County High School, Clinton High School, and Oak Ridge High School. I would like to thank the guidance department at each of the county schools for their efforts in soliciting applicants and selecting the scholarship recipients for 2021. On behalf of the Anderson County Board of Commissioners, I would like to present this $500 scholarship certificate to Jonathan Gerlach. Let me close by congratulating you, Jonathan, on your achievements that are being recognized here today, and encourage you to continue your education with the same enthusiasm you have demonstrated to this point. Congratulations. And you.
Thank you for the scholarship and the opportunity it's going to present me in the future in my future education. And you can tell I'm soft-spoken and hard to speech, but I'd just like to let you know that I am very appreciative of this scholarship you have presented to me.
Jonathan is going to be going to Belmont, and you're going to be majoring in architecture?
That is correct.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
And the next item on the agenda is for Clinton High School Scholarship. And tonight that's going to be presented by Commissioner Rick Meredith. Commissioner Meredith, take the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may ask Miss Olivia Barker to please step forward. I concur with Commissioner Denenberg. I want to thank all the schools, the guidance counselors, in choosing these great students. So let me read this real quick. Be it resolved this 13th day of May, 2021, Anderson County Board of Commissioners hereby awards the 25th Annual County Commission Scholarship in the amount of $500 to Miss Olivia Barker. Congratulations.
Commissioners, and especially thank you to my counselors who have nominated me for this scholarship. I am going to University of Tennessee, Knoxville for aerospace engineering. And once again, thank you. This has been an honor.
Congratulations to the both of you. We're very proud of you and all the students in our school system that we have. If there's no other proclamations or resolutions at this time, if the families would like, we'll certainly take an opportunity to pose for any photographs or anything that y'all might want to do on that. Hearing no more business for the proclamation and resolution portion of the meeting, we will recess.
Call the May 17th, 2021 meeting of the Anderson County Board of Commissioners to order. Commissioner Isbell is going to lead us in the prayer. Commissioner Waddell is going to lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Most gracious and Heavenly Father, come to you tonight, Father God, and say thank you. Thank you for the health and for delivering this governing body back as one, Father God. And Father God, we just ask that you'll continue to look over us, guide us, and direct us, Father. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have the appearance of citizens. Is Mr. Pruitt in the audience? No. If there's anyone else that would like to address commission, just come up to the podium, give your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. Okay. Next, we'll move on to the approval and correction of agendas. We've got the consent agenda.
We don't have the board actor yet.
Oh, still waiting on the board.
There we go, got 15 out of 16.
Motion by Commissioner Fritz. Second by Commissioner Denenberg. All right, let's go to the board and vote.
Steve.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll have the approval and correction of the regular agenda. Commissioner Isbell, you wanted to add discussion of NETRA. Just add that to the mayor's report. Okay. NETRA. Any other corrections or additions? Motion by Commissioner Yeager to approve is amended, seconded by Commissioner McCamey. Any discussion on the approval of the regular agenda? Okay, let's vote. Yeah. All right, motion passes unanimously. We've got Dr. Turner in the audience. I guess I could have had you speak under appearance of citizens, but did everyone want to do we want to add Dr. Turner onto the agenda to give an update? On, I think he was here to give an update. Got a motion by Commissioner Denenberg, seconded by Commissioner Isbell. You just want to put him on now? Have him come up before the committee reports? All right, any discussion? Do we need a board vote for that, or can we just, all in favor? All right, all those in favor of having Dr. Aye. All, any opposed? Okay, Dr. Turner.
Thank you. And just to let you know, I am not a medical doctor.
Oh.
But anyway, thank you for having me today. Is it okay if I take this off with the new CDC guidelines? I was asked by the chair, Mr. Anderson, to come and speak and give an update today on COVID. In particular, he was asking about people taking their second doses. So I will cover a little bit of that throughout this process, and you'll have to forgive me. This data is extremely hard to get to print off. I've tried the snippet tool. Our epidemiologist sent me a bunch of beautiful stuff. However, it was from the 14th, so I wanted to give you all the most up-to-date information. So I have my computer with me, so if you'll bear with me as we go through that. If you look at Anderson County on the tn.gov website or COVID-19 .tn.gov website, the dashboard for Anderson County shows we've had a total of 8,810 cases of COVID. We've had a total of 171 deaths, unfortunately, 221 hospitalizations, and we have 8,578 inactive or recovered cases. We have had 61 new cases since Friday. Basically, they were reporting every day, updating it at about 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. They have since stopped reporting cases over the weekend, and those were updated on Monday. So we've had 2 new cases today. And if you look at over the last 7 days, the average positivity percentage was 3.5%. And if you can't see this, but if you go to the website, obviously the cases are trending downward. And we are optimistic that that will continue. We are, continue to promote the vaccination and encourage people to do so. And one of the things also you probably heard on the news or radio, Pfizer recently was approved by the FDA and the CDC for those 12 and up. So we have started Friday. That was approved Wednesday last week. We had started our process waiting for our updated protocols internally, and we actually started vaccinating those 12 and up on last Friday. We, at this point, do not know what that uptake will be, but we are promoting that. We are also working with the school systems. We did not actually coordinate or, I guess, put it together, but Anderson County schools as well as Oak Ridge schools became providers of the vaccine, and they provided vaccine to their students, and both of those campaigns were very successful. The school systems did a tremendous job with that. We assisted the school with the vaccine management. We were a consultant to them, and we also assisted them with the Tennessee Immunization Registry System. And I don't want to speak for Dr. Parrott, but we appreciate your partnership in that. And your school did an excellent job, Oak Ridge also. We did not plan it this way and would not have planned it this way, but all 3 school systems received their first dose on the same day. So we had a team at Anderson County most of the day. We had a team, some of those shifted from Anderson County to Oak Ridge that afternoon. And we also, Clinton being a smaller school system, they presented through our drive-through. We had a special clinic for them from 3 o'clock to about 5:30. And I think all of that went very well, and we are very grateful for that partnership. Kudos to all of that. And let me see, in terms of vaccination, let me see if I can find this information. In the state of Tennessee, total vaccines reported are 4,612,461. The percent of people in the state with at least 1 dose is 37.4%. Those fully vaccinated in the state of Tennessee is 31.5%. And if you drop down to Anderson County, Anderson County has a total of 58,186 vaccines. We have 41.818% with at least one dose. And we have 35.72% with two doses. So we are ahead of the state in terms of percent vaccinated as well as those receiving their second dose. While we're talking about second doses, I'll go ahead and share with you, I don't have specific data at the county level, but I know CDC did a study and on second doses, and let me try to, and Tennessee was about 91.9% of the individuals who received Pfizer and Moderna went on to complete their series. And as far as looking at the numbers in terms of what we do first doses and second doses, we have a very high percentage of people coming back to Anderson County Health Department for their second doses. And if they're not coming back to Anderson County, they're getting it at some of the community partners, some of the pharmacies and people in the community that are offering that. So I think overall what we've seen to this point is our second dose is pretty high. One of the reasons that it's been a challenge to actually get the data, we have noticed that some of the second doses are having, we've been having some difficulty getting that information transferred over from our vaccine registry system over into the Tennessee immunization system. The department has noticed that that's an issue. They are working diligently to correct that. At one point, most of the people that we called that had not transferred over, we were finding out that they had received their second dose. So we are in the process of trying to get that, actually working through all of those individuals that are showing as not having received their second dose, calling those individuals if they've received their second dose, noting that information and getting that corrected in our Tennessee immunization registry system. So we are working very diligently to do that. And I would say in terms of the number being vaccinated, the number that's not transferring over was a very small percentage. One of the questions that I was asked was what the commission could do in terms of promoting the second dose. And really, you hear a lot of the terminology. If you're fully vaccinated, you no longer have to wear a mask. If you can go about more of your normal activities. I think that's probably one of the biggest selling points for vaccination. And you're not considered fully vaccinated until 2 weeks after you've received your second dose, if it's a 2-dose series. 2 weeks after receiving the first dose and only dose of the Johnson & Johnson. So that's one of the things that you could also do. And I actually meant to make copies of this and got out of the office without doing it. But the Tennessee Department of Health put together a little flyer, why get vaccinated? And it says to protect yourself, your coworkers, your family, and your community. It's a team effort. It's extra protection. You're not alone, and they're safe. And in the clinical trials that they did, they were 100% effective against preventing hospitalization and death. And then it also allows you to go see your loved ones and protects them while you're visiting. So I can get this copy to y'all, and that's something that can be passed out. Is information, and so at this point, I guess I will take any questions that you may have. I do have some demographics, and I actually questioned these because they were a lot different than what the state were showing in terms of percentage, but we're also dealing with a lot smaller population versus the statewide. If you look in terms of age groups who have been vaccinated, according to the website, in Anderson County, those that are 81 plus years old, 72.8% have been vaccinated. 71 to 80 years, it's reporting 83.8% have been vaccinated. 61 to 70 years, 69.3%. 51 to 60, 53.1%. 41 to 50, 41.2%. And then 31 to 40, 36.9, 20 to 30, 28.9, and then this is showing 16 to 20-year-olds, 25.5%. Again, I kind of question the accuracy of that because of if you look and compare that to the state of Tennessee, that it's quite significantly larger than the state of Tennessee as a whole. But again, you know, and at the health department, we continue to work every day to mitigate COVID. We're still doing our drive-through testing on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 10. We have what is called the Everlywell self-test, which is now grab and go, and that's available Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. When we began that program, we had the people perform the actual self-test in their car. They had to package it and then hand it back to us, and we would put it in the UPS drop box. We now allow them to either turn it in to us or take it to the drop box themselves. But those are available, like I said, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and there's no charge for those either. So vaccinating, we're pretty much vaccinating every day. Typically on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we're doing it 9 to 4. We do stop from 12 to 1. Even though most of the time we continue to vaccinate, we rotate lunches. But there's a hard break there as far as our schedule is concerned. And on Tuesdays, we begin vaccinating as soon as we finish the drive-through testing. So we continue to work diligently. I know some of the commissioners have asked in the past about doing community events going. I think one of the locations was Oliver Springs, and I know the Rocky Top and Briceville area, and I know the commission has worked with one of the private doctors here connected to one of the pharmacies and provided some of that vaccination. Since we have started, kind of our numbers have started to wane a little bit, the demand, and that's not just us at the health department, that's nationwide. The demand for the vaccine has started to drop. We are looking more and more and moving out into the community. We have provided some vaccinations at with the Oak Ridge city government. We went to Magna, which is an industry here in town. We are in the process of setting up some stuff with Manhattan Apartments, with the La Follette Housing Authority for their facility in Rocky Top. We've been talking with, and don't have anything set up right now, with the Oak Ridge Housing Authority, and we are just kind of continuing to work through that process. And we kind of have, with our National Guard, our tent teams, and our staff, we're looking at areas where we can go out and take it to the people. And I think, so that's kind of what we're doing on a daily basis at the health department.
I've got a question from Commissioner Denenberg, and I'd like to get a copy or a link to the demographics that you gave out,
Okay.
if you have that. Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You had given some statistics or numbers of people who are currently ill with the COVID. Do we know what variant?
In terms of the individuals that are currently ill, Specifically, no. But looking at, CDC is doing random samples of COVID testing. And of the 1,089 samples that they took, 80.7% of those were the B117, which is the UK variant.
Okay.
And the vaccine has been very effective against that particular variant.
Well, I was more concerned of whether or not we have had the India strain in our community or even in the state.
I can't specifically answer that question. It's a variant of interest, which is the lowest on the priority list. There's interest, concern, and then high consequence. The Indian variant is a variant of interest, and my understanding that the vaccine is doing very well against that.
Good. The numbers, like the event that Commissioner Isbell and Commissioner Val had up in Rocky Top, those numbers from that clinic, are they then, when they're put into the system, as I know they did, does that go into the numbers that you are then able to state that the county has
Yes.
X numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
They are required to report into the Tennessee Immunization Registry
Right.
system. And so the data would be captured in everyone that is giving vaccinations.
And the last question I have, when you do the follow-up calls for people who have not shown up for their second shot, and the person says, well, I went to X pharmacy and got my second shot, is there any way to confirm that that is correct?
We would, yes, there is. I don't know exactly what their process that they're going through at the regional level for that. What we're finding, honestly, is the majority of those have received it at the health department, and it's an issue with the registration system that we're using transferring over to the Tennessee Immunization Registry. And as I stated earlier, they realize that's a problem and they are working on it. They're still finding some pockets in April in particular where some of those didn't transfer over. And what we're doing there is we're basically verifying that information, getting their date of when they received it, and then we're tracking it through the Tennessee Immunization Registry to find that record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Mead.
Yeah, the question I have is, I know that for at least some of the vaccines, they have to be stored at cryogenic temperatures and they have to be brought to room temperature for use. But then once they're brought to room temperature for use, they're basically can't be used after that. They can't just be refrozen, is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you having any problems with the vaccines being wasted? Because at the end of the day, you've got substantial amounts that have been defrosted.
The short answer to your question is, for the longest time, up until probably about 2 weeks ago, we did not waste vaccine. If we had, for example, Pfizer is a 6-dose vial. If we had 5 or 3 or 2, our staff many nights were at the health department, sometimes 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night trying to move that vaccine. We have since been instructed that we try to exhaust our resources, and if we can't find anybody, then we have no choice but to let that vaccine go. It's something that we don't like to do. It's something we don't want to do, but you have to kind of weigh the how long do you keep your staff at the health department trying to move it versus, and vaccine right now is pretty much readily available. I was reading something the other day, and the uptake is a lot lower than what the supply is right now. We have been instructed by the state to do our best to move it, but we've also been told that if someone shows up and we don't have any vaccine that's open, not to turn them away to open a vial. And so I don't know if that fully answers your question, but to,
I guess to fully answer my question is, how long, from something goes from, like dry ice storage to being used, can it be put in warm water or something to get it thawed quickly? Or, how
No,
long does it take?
the Pfizer is the one that has to be the ultra cold.
Okay.
Once it comes out of the ultra cold or the shipper, if it's not reconstituted, it takes about, from the shipper sitting on a counter, considered room temperature, it takes about 30 minutes for it to
Oh, okay. That's
become-
not as bad as I thought it might be.
Moving it from the ultra cold or the shipper to a refrigerator, it takes it about 2 hours. Once the vaccine, it's basically in an reconstituted state, it's viable about 2 hours. Once we put the mix it, the Pfizer is viable for 6 hours at room temperature. Anderson County has basically been using the shippers. We've had some challenges with those. We've been able to work through them, but with us having a metal building, we've had difficulty getting the geo tracker to pick up signals, but we've worked through that, and we're anticipating getting an ultra cold freezer sometime within the next week or two.
Okay. And a second completely unrelated question I had is, under HIPAA laws, there's a lot of restrictions on asking people about their medical conditions or state. Has there been problems that people are upset or, can people be asked? I tell anyone that wants to know, I'll show them my card, I don't care. But I know there's some of my friends that are very sensitive to even when I've known them for 40 years and I ask them if they've been vaccinated, they don't want me to know.
As far as what a person answers or how they answer it, that's obviously a personal preference and what they feel. I guess as an American, we can ask any question we want, and as a human and a person, we have the right to answer or not answer any question that's asked of us. So in terms of HIPAA, if it's your information and you give it, that's not a violation.
Oh, sure, that's right. If you volunteer it, it's.
Yeah.
Commissioner Smallridge.
Did I understand you to say that in the last several days, those testing, that 30.5% have been positive?
I believe it was 3.5% positivity rate.
Okay, thank you. I missed that.
3.5%.
I was going to say 30.5% sounded like a big,
Oh, Lord, please no.
large number. Thank you.
Thank you for the update,
Sure.
Director Turner. We appreciate you coming out, and I think that helps kind of give everybody a little more peace of mind with being back together and stuff. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having me. If y'all don't mind, it's not going to offend anybody, I'm going to excuse myself, and y'all have a blessed evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the report.
Next, we'll have the committee reports. Purchasing report, Catherine Ashmery.
Good evening. It's good to see everybody. Under contracts approved by the law director, we have 5 submitting for your approval, either individually or as a group.
Motion to approve as a group, seconded by Commissioner Meredith. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Oh, okay. You want- Motion passes unanimously.
And that's actually all the action items I have. Under Section B, that contract's been deferred to next month. we're trying to work out some more better terms. And then under section C, that's just informational, the amount of bid amounts from the previous month's capital asset sales. So unless y'all have any questions.
Questions, Catherine? Commissioner Wandell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Catherine, I know it's going to be brought up again next month, but the cost of 2,200?
Yes, sir.
Has that gone up from last time?
It did go up by $200 per month, and there was a pretty lengthy discussion at the purchasing committee about that, and then also some terms that we'd like to maybe get more favorable for EMS. So we're working on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions for Catherine? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Next up is the budget report, Interim Finance Director Robbie Holbrook.
Thank you, Chairman Anderson. Alrighty. Jumping right into the cash and fund balance report. At the end of April 30th, 2021, restricted funds were at $748,291. Committed funds, $2,065,498. Assigned funds are at $2,029,147. And unassigned fund balance is $5,991,858, which is still above the $5.5 million requiring 2/3 vote. Total fund balance is $10,834,794, and cash is $17,583,282, which is up $5.6 million from last year at this time. Any questions about the fund balance report?
Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robbie, that extra funds, that $5 million increase is pretty much sales tax, isn't it?
It's sales tax, and, you know, I wrote down some reasons for that, I thought. And one is
Okay.
that state appropriation grant that we got this year, that the governor, the 1.45 million. We were able to spend that on capital improvement instead of our own fund balance. COVID, we also have received some COVID money this year that's in the steady in revenue right now that increases our cash. So I think the sales tax also is one of the reasons. As well as property tax. You know, we had a reappraisal and we didn't increase property tax this year, but we have already surpassed our budget for property tax this year as well.
One follow-up question, if I could. The Rural Debt Service Fund, it's at 288,574. What, is that a payment each year, or does that come out of our, how's that fund work? Explain that to me.
The rural dirt, we don't, not a lot of property tax go in there. The schools make a contribution to that fund to pay a lot of to pay the debt that for the high school. No, that's for the elementary school. But they make, most of that comes from a school contribution from the 141 fund.
I guess I'll get with Dr. Parrott later, but I'm curious, would it make sense for us to pay off those funds?
That's just what's in restricted funds. That's not the budget for the 155.
That's okay. No, you keep doing your thing. I just see these numbers and I'm thinking, man, it seems like we could pay off some debt and just move on if we got the extra cash. But I don't know what the interest rate is being charged for those funds and things
Well,
like
our
that.
last few loans haven't been a very high interest rate. It's been a really good interest rate, but, I mean, one of the budget amendments this month is Dr. Parrott, is the school's putting $1 million into the debt service fund.
Yeah, I saw that. That's something else I'll talk about when we get to it. Thank you. Thank you.
Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, cash and fund balance. For March, the county as a whole had 3.6 million, which is up 11% from last March, and Anderson County's portion, 488,539. Last March, 2020, we had 323,620. We're at 50% from last year at this time. So sales tax, like I say, every month continues to come in really well. And we should be getting April's any day for this next month. They're always 2 months behind. Any questions?
Commissioner Creasy, did you have a question or a motion, or is that just a?
Commissioner Creasy.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Okay, moving into the budget amendments, appropriations from the school department, there are two, number 23 and 24. Seeking approval as a group, or we can take them individually, or answer any questions you might have.
Motion by Commissioner Meredith as a group, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted a little more clarification on that item 23, the $1 million.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The school department is putting the money, they had in restricted funds committed for debt service this year, and they're moving that money into the debt service. Instead of putting in their budget, they took they budgeted $1 million for an appropriation to the debt service, and they reduced that $500,000, but they're paying up front the money, to build up the fund balance, so we were able to make the debt service funds payments for next year, if that makes sense. What I just said, it kind of sounded.
I guess my question is, we're taking out of the unassigned fund balance.
They're
I guess
taking
it's
it-
their unassigned fund balance, the schools. Right?
It's a commitment for debt service.
All right. Thank you. You answered my question. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, let's vote. Commissioner Jameson. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, Group 4 appropriations non-school, there are 8 of them, 25 through 31, and number 38. Seeking approval as a group, or we can take any
Motion to approve as a
individual.
group by Commissioner Fritz, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Commissioner Meade.
Yeah, I have a question about item 31, this 200,000, which is funds for programming for Justice Center agricultural programming that looks at space needs of the courts and departments. Are we really expecting to spend that kind of money? Now, I know the sentence that describes it ends with, this is a not to exceed and may not require full expenditure. I know the people on the budget committee that look at this kind of stuff all the time, and they kind of know what sounds reasonable. It sounds like a lot to start off just for a preliminary look at what we might be looking at, but if that's reasonable, then I'm willing to go along with it. But just, can anybody explain, is that, Mayor, is that the kind of expense, within the realm? Of course, we're going to spend whatever it takes.
Well, it's not a preliminary look, it's actually the programming. So it is up to, and that's based on just an anticipated amount. So for instance, this particular architect who, he does work for University of Tennessee Hospital, UT, Tennessee School for the Deaf. So for instance, with Tennessee School for the Deaf, they have an anticipated idea of what they would like it to be. And then they enter to the programming, it's an architectural programming phase, which at that particular phase, you actually look, what are the space needs? So you need a court, you need a jury box, do you need a desk? All of those things are measured, and the county commission would be presented with that programming manual, each of you as members, and then you would determine, if the sheriff, for instance, wants, a copy room with this particular furnishings and these cabinets, you all would make those decisions, and then from there, that programming and all of those dimensions are actually used to do the schematic full architectural design, which is your next level. So on this, it's an estimate based on just kind of what it might be, but it's based on actuals. So for instance, with Tennessee School for the Deaf, when I was working with the architect, they had $36,000 left over that they did not need from that programming phase. So that's not a check that's written to one person. It also involves the engineering and all those other items that were mentioned in that justification. So it's not just direct architectural costs, it's also working with those other folks and individuals and experts.
Okay. Is part of these calculations, do we have a target number now for like how much do we expect to spend for this new center? I mean, is it 2 million, 3 million, 6 million? I mean, do we have an idea of what we're talking about?
When the last time the county looked at one, I think the estimate was 6 or 8 million, so probably what I'm looking at right now.
It won't be
in this
that little this time.
No. You're probably looking at 16 to 20 million dollars. But again, that would depend on what county commission would want to be in there. I would envision that it would be your sheriff's department, it would be all of the courts, minus the Oak Ridge Court. It would be your drug court, the district attorney general. The law director would be up in the air because he might want to stay administration, but he also may want to go out there. So those or anything associated with justice and law enforcement would go into that space. So until you really know what that programming is, and then the programming also includes the operational functions of the system. So for instance, when inmates come in, how do they travel? Where do the security areas need to be for the judges? Do they need dedicated entrances? Yes, they do in all the other, justice centers, but that is something that would be looked at, and then you all make those determinations as commissioners.
Or I don't recall having a lot of discussion about this. It's been in the periphery for a long time, but
Commissioner
it
Wanda.
sounds like a lot of money to me. Anyhow, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you explained it well, and I think the description explains it, but I guess my concern is, I understand that it's up to 200, and if the group doesn't need 200, then it wouldn't be spent. But I guess my question is, how, if this is approved, how's it going to be managed? I mean, it seems like to me we would have more information on the front end, you see. I mean, I'd be more comfortable with doing, say, 25,000 on the front end to allow you or whoever's going to manage this piece to come to us and say, okay, here's what the bids look like, here's the engineering firms we're going to use, and so on and so forth, right? To me, this looks like we're saying, Mr. Chairman, let's allocate 200,000, come back to this body and tell us what you find. I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of understanding what the actuals are, the costs, and seeing some of the hard numbers in black and white. And looks like the mayor probably has some, I don't know, but I want to take a little more caution in this. I don't want to just say, because where's the 200,000 going to go? And Robbie, it says 101 code. What's that coming out of? Are we taking it out of the undesignated fund balance, or is it coming out of a different code?
It's out of sales tax.
Sales tax
We're increasing
dollars.
our sales tax budget.
So we're spending sales tax dollars, and is this a new code that carries the sales tax dollars?
That's where the money for the sales
Okay.
tax goes.
Okay. Mayor, I'll give you a chance to respond.
Sure. Well, this doesn't go to, so what programming is, I mean, this isn't it's not a conceptual, it's not a what if. This is, if we build a justice center, if we're doing this, exactly what are the design needs? What are the programming needs to go into said facility? What are the dimensions of the equipment, the space needs of courts, of the sheriff's department, of dispatch? What are those needs? Maybe dispatch doesn't, maybe you all don't want it to go in there, or maybe we do. But I would anticipate being the project manager just in terms of verifying the cost, but this would be the actual design firm doing this. I did ask for 2 proposals, so one being a full schematic design and then one just being programming only. And that's what I opted to bring, was just the programming only, to make sure, because there needs to be a lot of decisions made in terms of what you all would want to see in that facility.
So is this going to run, let's say it's approved, the 200,000, does it run through finance? Does it run through budget? Does it, how's that process? Is this going to, because see, this kind of lends itself a little bit to capital outlay too, to me. I mean, I'm just a little bit hesitant on 200,000 out there because you say programming, but a lot of folks at home might not understand like me, because programming can be program computers or what have you. But
Sure.
I guess in essence, it's a little bit operational type audit, somewhat, not a fiscal audit, but maybe an operational audit. Is that kind of true?
So, and I wasn't here for your programming on the jail. So
Right.
I would assume what you all did with the jail is CTAS and Tennessee Corrections Institute probably advised Anderson County of the number of cells. There, it was probably a little bit simpler in terms of you need so many cells with this classification. Some need to be, isolation cells, some need to be high security. The programming actually puts together how many cells do you need of that type? Do you need a medical clinic? How big does the medical clinic need to be? What equipment do you need in there? Do you need a dental chair? Do you need medicine cabinets? Do you need an examination table? Literally, from a programming standpoint, that they are looking at every single detail of what you need, because that is how you get the true cost of what is going to be in this facility. So once you have all of the elements and the space needs, then you go to what is it going to look like? But when you're doing a true, not just a, hey, we're looking at square footage and what's the average cost of a justice center or of an office building or this particular class or industry, square foot, you're actually going to have a cost that involves it's going to have, does it need acoustical tiles? It's going to have every element so that there are no surprises when you go to do the construction side of things. If that makes sense.
It makes sense, and I'm just in favor of a lower amount. I mean, you could always come back and get more. I just think 200 is kind of a lot. If it's going to stay at 200, I'm going to vote against it only because it's the 200. I'm not against the concept. And as far as the jail goes, it was a little bit more direct than that with the state. They've mandated we've put the jail up to code or they're going to shut us down. So we didn't have a whole lot of options, and we had to do something. So I like the idea. It's a little too much money for me on the front end at 200,000. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Wandell. Commissioner Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what the mayor's trying to say is this is a feasibility study, which is done a lot in the industry. I think that she's calling it a program, but it's actually a feasibility study. And I know when we built the first jail up there, that there was a feasibility study by corrections as well as CPAS. I think they assisted us, and I think that's why that cost for that project was a little lower. This is a whole nother thing because I think they're adding the design phase to it too. So you spend money to get me. So the thing is, if you don't know the feasibility of everything she's saying, it could cost you more in the long run, would be my interpretation of that. I don't think it'll cost $200,000, but that's just my 2 cents. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Meredith. Any other discussion? Let's go to the board and vote.
Mr. Chairman, sorry. Is this a group vote or just one item?
I was going to suggest maybe we should take 31 out and vote on it separate.
Take 31 out.
So it would be 25 through 30 and then
Do we take
38.
31 out?
No, just clear the board. We had a motion.
To approve
Yeah,
as a group.
Had a motion to approve as a group.
If I go back and
Yeah.
keep the votes you have, I can tally in this. Let me just go ahead and tally if you're okay. And
Well, okay, what were we voting on?
You can change your vote.
Just 31?
The motion was to approve as a group in a second.
Or
All of Group 4.
All group 4
That
less
was the first
31 or
motion,
all
yes.
including 31?
Yes.
Well, the original motion was all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's vote on that.
But Do we just want to just vote on the whole group?
Is that what we're
Is
doing?
that all right? Okay, well, let's just keep going then.
Keep going.
All right, 13 yes, 2 no, motion passes.
Okay, number 6, transfers. There are 2. Seeking approval as a group, or I can take them individually or answer any questions.
Motion to approve as a group. Seconded by Commissioner Wandell. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. You know, if you hit it twice, you'll change your vote.
That's true. Yeah.
You voted no on the one you seconded, that really.
And now, it doesn't do it on no.
Good reading in the Courier, wouldn't it? Motion passes unanimously.
All right, number 6 are appropriations that affect the unassigned fund balance. There are 4 of them, 34, 35, 36, and number 40. Seeking approval as a group, or we can take them individually.
Motion to approve as a group, Commissioner Meredith, seconded by Commissioner Meade. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Moving on to the Group 7, Section A is the 21-22 proposed budget.
Motion by Commissioner Waddell to approve.
No, I want to pull out number 19.
Motion to, all right, pull out number 19. You okay with that? Second, Commissioner Meredith? Pull number 19? All right.
That was,
Or, I'm sorry, it's the McNabb Center.
okay, that'll be number C. I'll bring that up here in a second, okay? Section A, though, the budget highlights, there is no vote, and that will be in the special called meeting on June 7th. So in the highlights, the first order of business, the committee approved the 141 school budget. The motion passed unanimously. Second, the funds 143, 151, 152, 156, and 263 were all approved unanimously. And then we moved on to the general fund budget. The committee voted to approve a 4% employee increase instead of the previous $1,000 raise for all funds. Commissioner Waddell and Commissioner Val abstained with cause. With the 4% employee increase came a motion to move 3/4 of a penny of property tax from general fund to EMS fund. That motion passed unanimously. Motion to include $31,739 in funding to general fund budget for payment to Arcadis for services related to the Blockhouse Valley landfill. That motion also passed. Then a motion to shift 2.5 pennies of property tax levy from general fund to the 171 general capital projects was also approved unanimously. In Section B, Law Director Jay Yeager presented a plan for budget approval about staffing plan and office space management plan with $81,000 of reoccurring costs and $27,627,000 of one-time costs. That motion was also approved. Section C, Rick Meredith with the McNabb Center. It was the Budget Committee approved $50,000 from unassigned fund balance. That's where we're at, Denver, right now, if you would.
So you want to pull?
Yeah.
Pull your section. Oh, we've got a motion to pull out Section 19, seconded by Commissioner Meredith. Any discussion? Let's vote to pull that out. Yes, 1 no. Motion passes.
So I'm a little bit confused. What do you mean when you say you want to pull this out?
Just to take it up separately.
We just want.
Well, it's a separate item in itself, so right, I need commission to vote to approve or reject the $50,000 budget amendment to the McNabb Center. So that, we need a vote to approve or, disapprove, yes or no, for that budget amendment.
Is that number 19?
That is Section C,
Yeah.
the
Number
McNabb
19.
Center.
In Group 7, 19 was the only item to be voted on.
And I can read the motion. Commissioner Rick Meredith requested that the county set aside $50,000 as seed money for the initial funding of a pilot workforce development program with McNabb Center for Anderson County residents. Commissioner Denenberg, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge, to refer to the Anderson County Board of County Commissioners with a recommendation for approval. Voting yes, Commissioners Denenberg, Creasy, Smallridge, Val, and Jamison. Voting no, Commissioner Fritz and Commissioner Waddell. And not present for vote was Commissioner White.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Val to approve, seconded by Commissioner McCamey. Any discussion? Commissioner Fritz.
Just so you'll know why I voted no on this, this is right here again is as a commission, we voted to eliminate the nonprofit groups. A lot of nonprofits come before this committee. We have turned down a lot of good people. And it's not that this is not a good cause, and and it's not a good cause, and it's not a good thing, but we have stopped funding nonprofits, and we and I am one who believes in being consistent. If we're not going to fund nonprofits, then we're not. We shouldn't pick and choose, fund this one and not fund that one, fund this one and not fund that one. If they're all good, let's be fair and equal to all of them. If we're going to start funding nonprofits, then let's establish the nonprofit committee and go through the process and do it properly and legally and fairly. And since we're not doing that, that's the reason I'm voting no on everything.
Thank you, Commissioner Fritz. Commissioner Waddell.
I agree with Commissioner Fritz. Also, we have drug court, and it's sort of the same thing. We're already trying to do as much as we can. Drug court doesn't. We don't have as many applicants in drug court because they don't qualify. So we already have programs for people in need, and this is again $50,000 of hard-earned tax money that our citizens are paying in for this group to donate, and that's not what we're here for. That's not what we take tax money for. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Waddell. Commissioner Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification to the other commissioners, as I told the Operations Committee as well as the representatives from McNabb, this money will be restricted. As I shared with Robbie earlier before the meeting, they have to come back here to ask for any disbursements. So if this body would have liberty to either not fund it or not, because this is a public-private thing. If they don't raise the funds on the private side, the $50,000 goes back in our fund balance. So it is a true pilot program. This just gives them the leg up to go to the private industry and say, hey, we need blank number dollars, which will be about 3 times this cost. So I think it's a little different than our other nonprofit ask. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Meredith. Commissioner Waddell?
Yeah, just one more quick thing. If people are going to come to us and ask for money and then go out and raise money, if they have a number in mind, I would like to see them go and raise that money and then come back to us once they raise that money, and then we can look at it. It seems a little wiser to do it that way instead of us setting our money in an account somewhere waiting on them to raise the money if they do or they don't. We just did that recently with a roof. We gave people to build a building. We gave people money to build a building for the veterans, and they've still got to raise the money. They've got a lot of money to raise, and the money we gave them is just sitting there, and it may never get used. So in the future, I would like to see us not commit any money until they've raised their portion of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Waddell. Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask Commissioner Meredith to speak on, I understand it's a pilot program with McNabb Center, but it's about workforce development. I'd like to hear a little bit more discussion about that from you on the purpose of what this is about.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Commissioner Wandell, what it is, it's for the women. It's for women's program. We have a partnership with our couple of our manufacturers out in the industrial park that's willing to take these women after they're rehabbed. Commissioner Val probably can give the legality as far as the sheriff. He met with them on the details of that side, but basically it's to take these no more than 32 women, put them back in the workforce after they're rehabbed. It is a really good thing. Our colleagues in Hamlin County do it. Again, to Commissioner Waddell's issue, I agree with you, but at this time, they need our commitment so they can raise that private. So it's a little reverse in what he's saying. So again, it's a pilot. If these monies aren't raised, then they have to have a partnership with the manufacturers to have these jobs. It just doesn't going to work. But I think if you saw the true program, it helps us in workforce development. Hopefully it can grow.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just for clarification, and maybe Mayor Frank can help me with this, I think did we talk a few months ago about maybe possibly reviving the nonprofit committee, or at least maybe looking at the nonprofits? I feel like I remember you maybe mentioned something like how we give space to some nonprofits and then we do other things and just kind of analyze that. And I don't remember when that discussion came up or where we are on that, but just for, I know it's not related to this specific motion, but I'm just trying to remember for future.
Yes, it isn't, and I think, I'm trying to put my finger on it too, and I cannot remember Chairman Anderson, but we did discuss that because we do, we might have brought it up as a discussion point in the Finance Committee because we were talking about in terms of a policy standpoint of having some type of transparency, because there are nonprofits, for instance, we give the fire departments land in some cases. We give some organizations lease for $1. We've given, for instance, Emory Valley Center or Roan State, we make contributions in that regard. And we were just talking about maybe there's a way we could be transparent in all of that so that there could be better decision-making, in terms of fairness.
Right.
So we can keep working on that. I think we just mentioned it as a discussion point, but we didn't trigger a motion to do a full policy.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, any other discussion on the motion? All right. Let's go to the board and vote. Eleven yes, 4 no, motion passes.
Okay, in section D, it was Brian Young with email and BCTI. IT Director Brian Young presented a budget amendment request to move the Sheriff's Department email server to the IT's budget. That motion passed, and we've already voted for that budget amendment earlier tonight. And the second part where Brian was presented to request $1,000 in IT for IT budget to purchase, for the purchase of phones to have on a reserve in the event of equipment failure. And that motion was made by Commissioner Val and seconded by Commissioner Creasy to approve. And we've already approved that budget amendment as well. And under new business, there was one, I think there were three, but there were three new budget amendments, and all three of those have already been passed as well tonight. So that's all I have on the budget agenda.
So you don't need any action on that?
You've already taken action on all three of those.
Okay. Commissioner McCamey.
What's the motion that's on the floor now?
There is.
I think he was.
I was going to make a motion on that, but Robbie
It had already been approved.
A lot of times, when we move the budget agenda up to be due we moved it a day earlier on Monday, we get a few budget amendments that come in on Tuesday still, so I just add that I ask that they be considered under new business, and so once they're voted on, I move them into the budget amendment part, so it's just more information I probably don't even need to tell you all about because you've already voted on it, but anyway. Any other questions?
Robbie,
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
can you tell me the fund balance for general fund, highway, schools, solid waste?
Yes, I can. For the general fund, the fund balance, the unassigned fund balance is $5.9 million. Total fund balance is $10,834,794.
What was that again?
$10,834,794. Now, some of those are in restricted, committed, and assigned. Unassigned is 5.9 million, almost 6. Solid waste is 266,113 for their total fund balance. Highway is 2,683,124. I'm sorry, what was the last one you asked me for?
School.
Oh, the 141 fund. Their total fund balance right now is 7,040,504.
All right, thank you.
Yes, we did. Also, I wanted to mention too, really quick, the ARP money. I know I've received a lot of emails and inquiries about that money, and I just want you all to know that, and assure you that finance is doing everything we can to make sure, we're not gonna let 14.93. We're giving it a lot of attention. I mean, and the mayor and me and Randy meet sometimes 2 or 3 times a week about it because we're constantly getting emails and new updates. But there's a meeting tomorrow. The comptroller's coming to the University of Tennessee, and Randy and the mayor and Chairman Commissioner Yeager are going to that meeting. And Friday, there's a meeting, a virtual meeting with the mayors and state legislative. So we might have some more information after this week, hopefully. But also, I mean, we've done a really good job here, I think, too, going ahead and setting up a workshop. And hopefully, by the time the workshop rolls around, we'll have more information to share. But we do have a DUNS number. We do have a SAM registration. We have created a new bank account. We have a new fund. We've done everything up front we're supposed to do. The bank account is getting finalized by SunTrust, and we should be able to request the funds, fairly soon. But we're also told to be as conservative, to be extremely conservative, with our approach to this money. So until we find out more information, so we're taking that kind of an attitude in the finance department anyway. But I just wanted to give you all an update on that. And one other thing I wanted to give an update on is 2 important dates. May 24th at 5 o'clock will be the public hearing with the Budget Committee. And June 7th at 6 o'clock is a special call commission meeting to discuss the budget. I hadn't set a special call meeting, but I listened to a couple people that made really good points. It's nice to have a meeting to focus strictly on the budget instead of doing it in the regular meeting, because I think, it takes away from that meeting, and sometimes it takes away from the budget. But those are the 2 dates for the upcoming dates for the budget meeting, for next year's budget. So anyone have questions?
I've got a quick one. You
Yes.
mentioned that creating a new account
Yes.
at SunTrust for that. So that's interesting that it's just one account. I know the counties are kind of governed by the same FDIC protection for, I don't know what the number is for an account now, but.
Well, they just asked us to keep that money separate from all
Right.
their funds. And we created a new fund. Fund 121 will be the ARP money. So everything will come out of that fund. So it will only be used for that money. So that's just what we've been advised to do so far.
Mhm. It's interesting. Okay, thank you. Commissioner McCamey.
The 24th, what time was that?
24th, it's at 5 o'clock for
5
the
o'clock.
public hearing. That went in the paper.
Probably a
already,
letter.
and
Might have got a letter today. I got mine in the mail.
I got one
Notification for it.
on the special call meeting on the 6th.
On the
The
24th. Not the public
24th is
hearing.
a budget committee.
Yeah.
The full commission does not have to be there for that.
Okay, but it is a public hearing, right?
It is a public
It's
hearing.
Someone, when anybody that
Yes,
wants to
anybody can
come
speak.
and speak about the budget and tax rate and all.
I mean, 2 years ago, we had a lot of speakers, and last year, we didn't have one person, so you never know, but.
Well, I know when we used to do it through county commission, we had a special called meeting for public hearing, and it's the same way. Sometimes it'd be 20
Right.
people, and then some,
But in
they
June
really
7th
show
at
up when there's
6.
gonna be a tax increase, so.
Right.
With no tax increase budget, you shouldn't have anybody, but I just wanted to make that point, that it is a public hearing
Yes.
for anybody that wants to come.
They are welcome. And June 7th at 6, so 24th at 5 and June 7th at 6.
Commissioner Smallridge.
Yeah, Robbie, this special account for these funds, that has to be a interest-bearing account, is that correct?
It has been requested to be one, yes.
Okay,
And
is
we have
that
been working with the
Is that
trustee.
negotiated, or is that set by the bank, or how is it?
Regina and the trustee would have to answer that. She's over all of our bank accounts, and she did set this one up, and we told her that, you know, that was one of the requests, that it should be an interest-bearing account. But the interest we earn on this money, we can only spend on, you know, the same, yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. It's good seeing everyone again.
All right, Director of Schools report, Dr. Parrott. Commissioner
Thank you,
Wandell.
Commissioner Anderson, and first of all, I need to apologize to the Budget Committee and Chairman Val, because I missed last time we had a meeting, had some concerns that we were gonna have a lot of people at our board meeting about masks, and got everything lined up, and then nobody showed up. So I've told the mayor and Robbie and Shane, just, if you need me, call me. You know, I'll try to be here, but I do apologize, because I like to be here, and I know there was some questions about that $1 million, and I'll get to that just a minute. But just a couple of things. We did have Clinton's graduation on Friday night at the football field. Went great. We have next Friday night at Anderson County. We're going to be graduating over 530 students this year. Their total, I guess you would say, in all of the awards for their scholarships is right at $13.5 million this year. And so a lot of great students that almost all of our students have been approved for the Hope Scholarship. So as you know, you can go really to a 2-year university free, and you get it's about $4,000 a year for 4 years for go to a 4-year university. So we're excited about that. We are having summer school this year. That's part of the governor's new legislative session they did in January. So we've got about 500 elementary students signed up for summer school for 4 weeks in June. Over 100 middle school students and right at 100 high school students. We also will be doing extended school for our students with special needs. That'll be at CRCS. So we're excited about that. We will be having food. We do have, it's going to be at not all of our schools, but we will be transporting, have transportation from their home school to that school. And we'll also have after school care at the elementary schools. It's a STEM program that they're going to do. So that's something to make sure our students are on track for 3rd grade in reading. Another thing that, just to let you know, we're really focusing on student mental health. We did hire another social worker here about 3 weeks ago through a lot of our ESSER funds. We're looking at even maybe putting in a coordinator for our mental health, just to we've got a lot of programs out there with our counselors, we've got some psychologists, we've got our social workers, and we have a couple of other companies that we do that bring in people to do counseling with them, and we really just looking at trying to put somebody together to coordinate that all and make sure we're doing best. I think that when we look at COVID, one of the things that I think has hit hardest is the mental health of our students, some of our students and our staff. I think that is one of the things we really got to focus on next year. We've had a great year. We've taught every school day. We've been in school. We've been teaching, and like I said, I think we got our test over with a couple of weeks ago, and I think we're going to see some great results from that. Not to say we didn't have hiccups in the road, but anytime you work with a pandemic, and you all know that, trying to make sure that students are in class every day and quarantine in and out and things like that. One of the things that has come from that is we've got a meeting on Wednesday. The school board approved a pilot. Next year we will have a virtual school, so instead of having 17 schools in Anderson County, we'll have 18. We had a small version of that with our Innovation Academy, but we're going to look at being 3rd through 12th grade, and 3rd, 4th, and 5th will be just like it was this year. It will be online with an actual teacher, a Zoom teacher, and that will be housed at Dutch Valley Elementary School, and we'll have a counselor there for them. We'll have interventions, just like being in a regular school. And also one thing that we want to do, and the board really wanted us to look at, is we will have an opportunity if those students want to come in to do any in-person, they can transition in and out. If they want to take music in school, if they want to take art, if they want to take PE, things like that, they can transition in and out. And then the middle school one, it is already housed at Norwood Middle School, and we will just be having that at the same place. And then the high school, 9 through 12, it's been at the Career and Technical Center for probably the last 10 or 12 years. That program is, the Innovation Academy now has graduated over 300 students. And, you know, those are students that come to us that have some hardship. They've had some things happen in their high school career that if they didn't get that extra help, they may not graduate. So we're excited about that. Other thing is a lot of maintenance projects working through. The board has approved the Clinton High School. As you know, they started on the football field today. Be working through that. Hopefully, we will have it done by the first football game, or they'll probably run me out of the county. But is a great partnership between Clinton City and Anderson County Schools working through that. Going to be getting rid of a lot of tile this summer in Clinton High School, Clinton Middle School, Norris Middle School. Clinton Middle School, we still have to abate some asbestos out there because that tile was encapsulated. So Clay and his group's really working hard on that. Got some paving projects going on, and we'll be doing a new auditorium at Anderson County High School, and then just a lot of smaller things. But in the bigger scheme with our ESSER funds, looking at building 6 classrooms onto Norris Middle School in anticipation, that school is full, but in anticipation of all the new buildings that's going to be up on that end of the county, we're going to have some space. We're out of space. And then just starting in, we'll be getting some public comments and some really and truly some exciting things at Claxton, looking at over the next year to year and a half. Would love to see us break ground on a new school at Claxton, a new STEM-oriented school at Claxton Elementary School. So those are some great things that are going on. So at that time, I'll take any questions.
Commissioner Yeager.
Thank you, sir. The trend to having high school graduates graduate with an associate's degree over the years has increased. What's our numbers this year look like?
This year we're at 17. We had 17 graduates, and it was a lower number because some of those students, because they went online, they chose to come back to their high school.
Okay.
But we average about 20 a year, and this is the 6th year, so over 120 students have graduated with an associate's degree. Now, I tell you too, that number will really, I think it's going to grow because, as you know, the new TCAT that's being built in the industrial park it's scheduled to be completed in August. They'll start their first class there in January, and the new mechatronics program will be a dual enrollment, a middle college program, so our students can graduate there with that associate's degree in mechatronics. And we're really, that's going to be, I think, a game changer for these local industries around here. And it's so close that our students can drive. We may even take a van there. So that's going to be just a great project.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah. Dr. Parrott, I read your report, school report, and I was very impressed with the Briceville Elementary first grade. That program they did on the infomercials. Please pass my thanks along to that first grade staff and on that, and also compliment you for removing carpets from some of the school buildings. You may remember a few years ago, I complimented the school department for that. Yes. And those that suffer from asthma and hay fever and allergies would certainly applaud you also. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is one thing that we're doing. We're not putting any more, we're taking all the carpet out, and we're not replacing any tile. We're putting all to either epoxy concrete or polished concrete. And that not only saves us, it's a lot cleaner. It also, you don't have to wax that every summer. So During the Christmas break, we did all of ACCTC. All of their hallways is now epoxy. So that will take really about 2 weeks that our custodians in the summer can do other projects. So kind of just makes it a whole lot better. Thank you.
Commissioner McCamey.
The 18th school,
Yes.
virtual school,
Yes.
is going to be housed out of Dutch Valley.
Well, it will be actually at 3 different ones. The elementary will be housed at Dutch Valley. That's where the teachers will be actually physically at. The middle school, we already have a middle school online program. It's at Norwood Middle School. It'll still be housed there. And the Innovation Academy at ACCTC will still be housed there.
Okay, so do these numbers of the kids from in elementary, is that reflected as Dutch Valley students?
No, it'll be reflected as its own school number. It will be it will actually be a K-12 school, but we'll only do 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So we don't know how much of how many people will want to do that. So this first year we're kind of doing it as a pilot, and we're going to use our ESSER funds to pay those teachers, and then we'll see where that goes.
Okay.
Commissioner Isbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Perry, I just want to commend the Anderson County School System, the school board, what they've done. As you know, I've had my daughter's graduating this year, and she went through the CNA program, and in doing that, she got a $15,000 scholarship from LMU. And watching all these students that got these awards, $13 million is a lot of money. And you got to give, credit to our Anderson County School Board for being able to provide all these different programs. You didn't see a whole lot of athletic scholarships, although there were some, but most of them, were all good, and it's because of all the training. But I commend you on that.
Any other questions for Dr. Barrett? Thank you.
Thank you. It is good to be back and see you all. Spaces and my Zoom cuts in and out, so I get to see you all. So thank you all.
Before we get to the county mayor, could we take about a 5-minute, 10-minute break? Thanks.
Did they make us any more coffee?
We'll switch with Denver at the end of the meeting.
At the budget meeting, Chuck complained about his chair being
All right,
stupid.
we got everybody back, I think. Okay, we're ready for the county mayor's report.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Anderson.
Thank you.
Everybody's happy to be back.
They are, yeah.
The only action item I have here is a resolution, and thank you for putting it on the regular agenda, Resolution 21-05-868. This is a resolution recognizing May 16th to the 22nd as National EMS Week, and thanking our team for their perseverance and commitment to the citizens of Anderson County. And Nathan, if you want to come up here, I'm going to read this, but before I do, I just want to take a moment to really thank you all. Nathan and I were talking the other day. The best thing to ever happen to Anderson County EMS in many, many years was the audit. And it really helped us focus on the system, on the response, on responding to you all. And this morning, Methodist Medical Center just put together this wonderful room for Anderson County EMS. It's a break room for when they come in. They have snacks. They've got a little rest space, fruit, and from fruit to M&Ms, water to Mountain Dew. I don't know, the Mountain Dew maybe shouldn't be in there, but
Slushy machine.
and slushy machines, yeah. But, as I was just looking at everybody, and the morale was so great, and I have seen this on the ground the last few times I have been out there, morale improvement at the tail end of a pandemic, and I really want to credit you all for that, because it is the partnership between you and this department. It's not mayor. I'm just a small part of it, but it really has been what you all have worked with this team on, and it shows on their faces, and walking hand in hand. And your expectations, you have expectations from this EMS department, and I hear it from them. They want to meet those expectations on behalf of the people that you represent. So I just want to, I'm thanking the system, but it's your system. And, you know, oftentimes we use the language, the governing body. You really are the governing body. You drive where we're headed. And so I just want to thank you all for what you've put into this.
Got a motion by Commissioner Meredith to approve the
Whereas emergency medical services have been a vital part of every community across the United States and around the world for hundreds of years, going back as far as the time of Napoleon in order to aid injured soldiers in battle. And whereas EMS team members stand ready 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to provide life-saving emergency care. And whereas access to quality emergency medical care dramatically improves survival and recovery rates of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency nurses and physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the field of emergency medical services provides important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas EMS team members, whether career or volunteer, engage of thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas emergency medical teams continue to be on the front lines in fighting the ongoing public health battle of the coronavirus, COVID-19, and team members still stand strong and steadfast. And whereas founded in 1970, the team members of Anderson County Emergency Medical Services are celebrating 51 years of uninterrupted response to pleas for help from thousands of local citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Anderson County Board of Commissioners and the Anderson County Mayor show our deepest appreciation for the Anderson County EMS team members who dedicate countless hours to study, training, and service to our community. In recognition, we join the American College of Emergency Physicians and the National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians in recognizing May 16th to the 22nd as National EMS Week. And we sincerely thank the entire Anderson County EMS team and all our local first responders for standing steady and strong in our times of need.
Thank you all very much. It's been an interesting year. We have talked about pandemics and EMS for years now. This is the real first true one that many in our department have ever encountered. And I will echo what the mayor has said multiple times, individually and as a group, that this county commission, your words were echoed in our halls. From the letter from then Chairman Wandell to the many efforts from Commissioner Isabel, Commissioner Dennenberg, their involvement, activity in our department, but overall, the many words, encouragement that you all offered, they did not go unnoticed. And it is things like that that do propel people that are facing what we faced. And so I do want to say that, much like what the mayor said, thank you all for all of you and the commitment you gave our department and the encouragement. So we're excited to see what we believe the tail end of this pandemic, and I know you all are as well. EMS Week is an opportunity for us to show appreciation to our staff and really They are the wheels that keep it going. The medics and EMTs that are on the ambulance, making a difference in so many people's lives every single day. So it is a special time for us to pause and love on them some. And found myself in a dunk booth earlier today. I think I might have challenged them a little too much and wore my Class B uniform and said a few words maybe I shouldn't have said, because I found myself in the water quite often. And they liked it so much they extended it for up till Thursday. So now I not just one day, I'll have 4 days of being in the water. So that's not an invitation, by the way, unless we start making it, like a donation or something like that. Shane, you're a little too close for comfort. I see you coming, I might have to get out. But I did want to thank you all very much.
Commissioner Isbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that it's been a real pleasure to work with EMS and your crew, Brian, Schroeder, I mean, everyone there. I mean, it's just been, it's so rewarding to work with the people that have so much interest of Anderson County, and everybody, and our Chairman Anderson and Commissioner Denenberg and Andy back there. We worked on several projects together, and even what Commissioner Meade was talking about is how EMS came up with this refrigeration unit to be able to handle this vaccine, and then the Rotary Club reimbursed them for that, but Brian Schroeder actually found that to make that possible. So they're looking out for us, and I appreciate it.
Commissioner Fritz.
Oh, and happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I know a lot of people's not on the budget and wouldn't hear and everything, but we found out at Budget Committee the other night that, we are doing something right, and, the EMS is doing something right for the fact, that I think for the first time and for, I don't know when, we got you said we had a waiting list for paramedics for EMS. And I don't know how long, they've been, in the past, have begged for people to try to get here, and, so this is something, that they've not had that luxury in a long, long time. So, that shows that people are wanting to come and work for the EMS now. And I just also want to echo Commissioner Isbell's comments, is that here it is going on 8:30, and he gave up his night to be with us tonight on his birthday. So happy birthday.
Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just also want to say thank you to the fabulous team that you have over there, because anytime we've needed anything, trying to put together whatever project we were working on, they were there, no questions asked. How can I help? What is it you need? And it was a real team effort, and I just want to say thank you very much, and also happy birthday.
Oh, my gosh.
Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah, and I also want to compliment you, Nathan. And I remember a year or so ago, maybe months, or maybe more than a year or so ago, that you gave credit to Robert McCamey, because he set the example and helped organize that fleet of responders years ago and put together a good ambulance service. And he worked with Albert Slusher, which watched him like a hawk. But you gave him credit, and I applaud you for that, because and I remember you doing that, and that was big of you to do it. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Commissioner McCain.
Yeah, I kind of struck a note when the mayor said 1970. That's when I went to work for the ambulance service. 96 cents an hour. Worked 24 hours on, 24 hours off, and didn't even make $24 a day. We've come a long way.
Yes, sir.
I was there until 1998, and from 1970 until 1998, we were considered one of the best ambulance services in East Tennessee. We got to stand by when Ronald Reagan came to Scott County. We got to stand by when Jimmy Carter came to Oak Ridge, and that was Roane County, but yet they chose Anderson County to stand by while those two presidents were here. We were number one, in my opinion, and you all have continued to keep us number one. I'm glad that we are in a position now that we don't have to beg people to come to work. We have people now standing by wanting to come to work for Anderson County. And I'm glad, and I do know that we are one of the best in East Tennessee.
Yes,
and
sir.
Happy birthday.
Please don't start singing. And I thank y'all for comments. Actually, you brought up the history side of things, and one thing we've got a new assistant director, and we took a trip taking a look at a new program for the future, and one of the things I spent time talking about was how we started, how I went up to the records up here and got the minutes from the 1969 December meeting when they had to decide that the funeral homes were no longer going to do it, and they actually outsourced it for the first few months in 1970. Sam Spessard, and how, he's been involved a little bit. He was the first EMS director from March 17th, 1970 until 1975, and McCamey from 75 to 98. And be able to detail those out. I'm not from Tennessee, therefore I'm not from Anderson County, but I can't imagine being anywhere else. My department honestly looks at it as an opportunity for us to serve the community. And that's so much more than you calling 911. I want you and the public to know that. It is so much more. We take ownership of that. In our mind, we're not just an ambulance service. We are an ambulance service, but we can do so much more. And I think that this body has given us that opportunity to do that. And I continue to look not only doing that, but doing it better and doing it more in the future. So pretty excited about that fact. If we're going to keep on with the birthdays, maybe we could do like a breakdance war challenge, maybe Anderson, or Chairman Anderson, and maybe Andy. I forgot the cardboard box, but we can bring up some old school stuff. That might get a little entertaining. No? No.
I left my skateboard at home.
You left your skateboard? No, it's a break dance. Andy, are you up for that? The break dance war, you and Chairman. We'll have to. We might defer that for 30 days.
Yeah.
Come back in June. But thank you all very much.
Thank you. Let's go to the Commissioner.
For Nathan's birthday, I actually got a couple of $50 gift cards for the top 2 winners who dunk him the most. So I said that was clearly a morale booster for the team, and they took the challenge up. They took it seriously and extended the dunking booth. So.
Yeah, she brought up the topic of retaliation multiple times in that as well. So.
Any other comments for Commissioner Denenberg?
Just very quickly, I'd like to say that we would not have been able to pull off the clinic in Rocky Top without the cooperation of our EMS. Dr. Bunick and her team, along with Nathan's team from EMS, we could not have done it without them. And they were absolutely spectacular. Not only that, they got a nice new cooler.
Let's go ahead and vote this motion.
And while you're voting, that was my cash on those gift cards, not taxpayer money. I'm like, oops, I'm at a commission meeting and this is on TV. I better make sure people don't think I'm buying gift cards with taxpayer money.
Commissioner Jameson. Commissioner Jameson.
Commissioner Jameson. Your vote?
This is, yeah. Motion passes unanimously. Happy birthday.
The other couple of items were just information only. I received the annual report from the Forensic Center that was included in your agenda packet. And then also information only, but Campbell County is a grant recipient of a $600,000 Brownsfield Assessment Grant, and this will impact Anderson and Scott County. This relates to the R.J. Corman rail line. So if it is abandoned, this would go for that. If it's not abandoned and it still is intact, it would still go to the same line for other programming for that environmental assessment. So we're a beneficiary of that as well, and I just put that in there for information. And then I think Commissioner Isbell had NETRA on there, which is the Northeast Tennessee Rail Authority.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mayor, if you don't care to respond, we've been through several different meetings and lawsuits and things of that nature. And the rails and trails, if you'll Google it, you'll see that it's a tremendous success all across the United States, especially going into the northern part of the county. The ATV program that we have up there, we got a new campground that's going to open, I think, Memorial Day, and then we've got two more maybe in progress up there. But and how that would affect all of Anderson County if we could actually put something together. Have you got any ideas of what we could do? Or
Yes. So I'm sure a lot of folks are following. The Courier is doing a really good job of following everything that's going on with the Arkansas-Oklahoma, which has wanted to purchase the rail line. So R.J. Corman has wanted to abandon it. There has been a lot of back and forth. Our rail authority, which Anderson County is a member, I'm on the rail authority by nature of being the mayor. Commissioner Isbell is our appointee. We have worked to support the efforts of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and try to promote a rails with trails instead of an abandonment of the line. Because we do believe that there is a lot of economic development that could come about because of the line. We did locate shippers that would help get the timber off of our roads in the heavy trucks. But then also we have heavy interest from the tourism industry to run a tourism line that could also be a participating partner with transporting folks for bike trails or hiking trails, but then also bring jobs and tourism dollars. The latest that the Courier, again, has done a great job reporting, the Surface Transportation Board is where all of this has to go, and the STB denied the petition to reconsider, which means as it stands, the R.J. Corman is now permitted to pull the rail up and abandon that line. I did talk last week on, I believe it was Thursday, it might have been Wednesday, it runs together, but with the folks from Arkansas, Oklahoma. They are working on filing an appeal in federal court. I did reach out to Dan Elliott, Dan is an attorney in DC. He was the chairman of the Surface Transportation Board for many years. And so our Northeast Rail Authority actually used Dan to write supporting, that was through a vote of the Northeast Rail Authority Board, to write supporting documentation for that particular project, hoping that we could get R.J. Corman to the table to negotiate a sale. I did ask Dan, is there anything that we could do from this standpoint? The two things I particularly asked him about, and I don't want to put you to sleep on this, but one of them is the board basically, we provided the information that we have active industry willing to ship. And the board, we provided all of that proof. And the STB itself was created to be a deciding body with a goal, from our understanding, to preserve the infrastructure. And so one of the things I asked Dan, could we go back and take a look at, you know, the legislative intent? You know, if for instance, there were a resolution in front of this body, what were you all discussing when you know, made a decision? And could we suggest a rule change that might help us, but also help other communities across the nation in similar efforts? If you have your local community who wants to do a project and has an interest in maintaining the infrastructure, you know, that's how change comes about. And then the other thing I asked is, one of the things we discovered, and this wasn't me, it wasn't even Tim, it was people who are very interested in preserving the rail from the community, from Scotty Phillips to David Ezell, a whole host of folks discovered that part of the line had already been abandoned. And we did some research and found that that abandonment did require approval, but it never got approval. And so I did, just kind of as an 11th hour Hail Mary, just wrote a personal letter to the STB saying, hey, we've discovered this. There was never permission asked as required by law. And basically what the STB did was kind of, I didn't file it officially asking for action. I just hoped it would, you know, throw something into the, you know, kind of gum it up a little bit. And that issue is still out there. They just punted on it. So one of the things Dan said that we could do is we could file, and I'll share this with you, as a county, we could file a petition, so it's not a suit, it's just a petition in front of the STB to reopen the abandonment exemption because R.J. Corman improperly abandoned a line of railroad without the STB authority. Now, in some back and forth, R.J. Corman acknowledged that it had been torn up. They say it wasn't them. So we don't even have to word it as R.J. Corman did it, but if we could just reopen the abandonment exemption because there was never STB approval. So that is something we could do. The first issue that I looked at, that I asked about, could we go back and examine the rules? This would be a little bit more expensive proposition, so I did not want to bring that one to you. It would cost around $5,000 to $7,500 to do that. The second one would be a filing, would cost approximately $2,500 to $5,000. If that is something you all would want to authorize, I could definitely, you know, put Jay and Dan together. It is something that Jay certainly could do, except for rail law is a highly specialized area. So even folks that are in real estate, and Jay could probably speak to this as well, it is a very highly specialized area of law that has completely different rules and guidelines. But that is something that is a possibility.
Commissioner Isbell.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. One of the big issues there, and we talked about this in our meeting, is the safety issue. And Commissioner Val and myself just got an email from, they want to try, and Commissioner Val has reached out to everybody because they want to take those trucks off of 116. There's nothing we can do about that because it's not against law. But I always remember then Chairman Fritz that went with us over 116. If you've ever traveled 116 with a school bus and see those logging trucks come down through there, you would never want to do it again. So this is a big safety issue. If we could get those, you know, those timber trucks off of that, I think it's, you know, it's our due diligence to do everything we can to help in that respect.
Thank you, Commissioner Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Isabel just pretty much said what I was getting ready to say. I actually hit the wrong button when I was requesting to speak, but Mayor, if I understood you correctly, the motion you would like for us to pass here tonight would be giving you the authorization to do what again?
To file a petition to reopen or revoke the abandonment of, and it's 6 miles of line that is on the Beach Fork area. So it touches Campbell and Anderson County. And it has been pulled up for a very long time. It is something that if we're able to pull off rails with trails, that 6 miles would be a great, partner area for actual physical hiking trails.
I so move, Mr. Chairman. I would also like to add, I know that is a remote area of our county, and I know a lot of commissioners may not get the opportunity to travel that area very often. I try to make it up there once a month. I know Commissioner Isabel tries as well. Every time we go up there and visit with Scotty, whether it's Scotty or a customer that comes into the store, the railroad comes up. That's always a topic of conversation. That is an area that is rich with history, but I believe down through the portals of time, some of them feel like they've been forgotten about because they are so remote.
Yeah.
And I would respectfully ask the commissioners to vote for this tonight for the people of New River. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Val.
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner McCamey. Any other discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Absolutely, thank you. This would really, if we're able to pull this off, this would mean so much to not only that area, but to the entire county. It's really an economic development effort, and so I appreciate you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Frank. Next up, got the law director report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to be back with everybody in person. I'll just have one item for you tonight, unless anybody's got any questions on my written report. We've had a resignation from the Charter Commission. That's District 7 in Oak Ridge. We'll need to start that process, and I just need permission to start working with Annette to get all the notifications out and start taking resumes and applications. Hopefully we can get it back to you at the June meeting.
Motion by Commissioner Fritz, seconded by Commissioner Wandell, authorizing the law director to move forward with the posting the vacancy for Charter Commission. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. Commissioner Meredith, I guess, is apt. He's gone. Commissioner James.
Quit working on me.
You just want to
What's your vote?
vote verbally.
I'm for it.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, that's all I have for you, unless anybody's got any questions.
Got a question from Commissioner Yeager.
Yeah, we had an Arcadis in budget update. I haven't really heard their name for quite a while. What's happening in Blockhouse Valley, just in general, not in specifics?
Well, what they're doing now, that was just the estimate for the year, and I think Robbie's trying to set up a PO so we can draw down on it instead of coming back every quarter or so and asking for money. But what they're doing right now is working with TDEC to open the site to citizens. I think I spoke about that here a couple months ago. But we've got, at this point, we're negotiating with TDEC to see exactly what areas we can open up to the citizens and maybe start doing some walking trails and get that off the ground. But they're also doing our monitoring that's still required by TDEC. They're helping us with the American Nuclear. We've got to do something with American Nuclear. That's the impediment to the whole entire project. It's time to move forward with that. But that's what they're doing. If you need to look at any of their invoices, I have all those. And but what you saw tonight was their estimate. I asked them to get an estimate into us so we can send it to finance instead of going through this process where they send us invoices for stuff that we haven't planned for. Years ago, they had a spot in the budget, and so we're trying to reinstitute that. So what we'll do is, as we're needed, we'll draw down on with that with POs.
Yeah, once you mentioned walking trails, that reminded me when
Yeah.
talking about that. Thanks.
If anybody ever needs to go down there and take a walk, please get with me. I'll give you the key or I'll give you the tour, and we'll be glad to talk about it. We've had, myself and the mayor have had a good conversation about it and what we want to do down there, and I think you'll be happy with it and run. Anything else I can do for you? Thank you so much for your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you. All right, next, committee and board reports. Operations Committee, Chairman Isbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First is Commissioner Wandell made a motion to approve Resolution 21-05-866 to allow the Anderson County Dental Health Program to accept credit cards as a payment option. Commissioner McCamey seconded the motion. Motion passed forward to full commission for approval.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Let's vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Commissioner McCamey made a motion to approve the lease agreement for the Barker property for 1 year with the option to extend for 1 month intervals. Commissioner Meade seconded the motion. Motion passed forward to full commission for approval.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Commissioner Meade made a motion to approve with the law director's approval, Resolution 21-05-867 for EMS to accept credit cards, debit cards, or e-checks as a payment option. Commissioner Meredith seconded the motion. Motion passed forward to full commission for approval.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Commissioner Meade made a motion for the mayor to pursue whether or not it is possible for the state of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security to rent a vacant portion of dark and other options. Commissioner McCamey seconded the motion. Motion passed forward to full commission for approval.
Motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McCamey. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And that dark DARC is for the Daniel Arthur building. Commissioner Anderson made a motion to send a resolution to state legislators to move a portion of District 36 back to District 33 for those residents to have better representation. Commissioner Yeager seconded the motion. Motion passed unanimously to forward to full commission for approval.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Under new business, Commissioner McCamey made a motion for the chairman of the Operations Committee to appoint a subcommittee to include Commissioner Val and Rex Lynch to look at building a justice center. Commissioner Anderson seconded the motion. Motion passed forward to full commission for approval. Commissioner McCamey made a motion for the chairman of the Operations Committee to appoint a subcommittee to include Commissioner Val and Rex Lynch to look at a building, a justice center. Commissioner Anderson seconded the motion. Motion passed forward to full commission for approval. I think how that worked was actually to have Chairman Anderson help with that subcommittee, help form that subcommittee.
Got a motion by Commissioner McCamey, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Any, Commissioner Meade.
Yeah, I hope this will now be coordinated with the $200,000 other effort for the same thing that we just approved tonight. I'm just stating that I'm assuming that these people will coordinate with that activity.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Commissioner Wandell made a motion to develop a resolution with Mr. Yeager to present to TVA a letter or resolution that says we allow TVA to put up a gate at the entrance to Blacks Ferry Road and put in a drain tile to fix the entrance there. Commissioner McCamey seconded the motion. Motion passed 4 to full commission for approval.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Down and out.
You want to vote verbally?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Two other things that does have full commission to approve tonight, but it's worthy of mentioning, is Commissioner Meade made a motion to add to the agenda discussion to have a magistrate for the courts. Commissioner Wandell seconded the motion. Motion passed, so then we discussed it. Commissioner McCamey made a motion that the chairman set up a time and date for a workshop properly advertised to discuss magistrate notify all involved to attend. Commissioner Wandell seconded the motion. Motion passed. So that's going to be what we're going to be coming up about, possibly doing a magistrate. And that concludes the Operations Committee report.
Thank you, Chairman Isbell. Next we've got, Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to point of clarification so everyone don't think we're blocking off Blacks Ferry Road. It's Old Blacks Ferry Road. It's down by the Black Cemetery is the name of the family cemetery. So that's what we're looking at. TVA's offered to help and talk to Gary Long, and we passed it through the operations, which I appreciate, and give TVA the opportunity to put up a new gate and things like that.
And the cemetery is still accessible to the public?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wandell. Next, we've got new business, and Sheriff Barker, I'm sorry, didn't realize you were wanting to speak till later on tonight, but glad you got to stay with us. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to be super brief. So 2 years ago, when you guys supported us on the Unit 1, because we were having inmate population issues, I told you that if the time ever came that we didn't need it, we would return those positions, and we're doing that now. Because of COVID and slowdown in the courts, we've seen a dramatic decline in our state inmates. And then in addition to that, the state of Tennessee is statutorily required to be at a minimum of 80%. And they dropped well below that. And so far, we've shipped 60.
Yes, sir. I believe we sent 4 off today, so it may be a little north of that.
Yeah, so we've sent about 60 back, state inmates. And it's a really strange thing in the sense that, you know, when we're busting out the seams, we can't get them to take them. And when we're good with them staying, they take them. So it's kind of like running a jail with my sister's kids. That either way, we've sent those back, and our budget will be reflecting that because we said we would do that, and that's exactly what we're doing. And again, that's all based on COVID. And I will say this: just I appreciate your support in that because it was needed, and just know that if we return to those numbers again, that I'll be back up here asking for some assistance. Any questions for me?
Commissioner Isbell.
Yes, Sheriff Parker, I just want to say, I think you're doing a tremendous job. You and your crew, all your deputies, fantastic. I mean, I don't hear any complaints whatsoever. I support you 100%.
Well, thank you so much. One brief note, we actually have Shane going out and working some road crews. It is the best you've ever seen. If you want to get with me, I can send the schedule out. You can drive by and home. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Did you have something else, Commissioner Isbell?
I got one other thing under new business, and probably should have took this up under purchasing, but Nathan will have something to talk about. When we were doing that and we had deferred it till next month, of approving that contract for like $2,200, I think he's actually looking to put something more into the Claxton community away from where it was at. So I think, the commissioners from that district might be interested in, knowing a little bit about that.
Does you want to speak on that now, or?
Right, it was just interesting, when we took it up in purchasing.
Yeah, so there's definitely more to come up with that. One thing for us for sure is making sure our stations, historically, our stations have been where they are. We are trying to go through the process of finding out if that is the right spot for them. I have my own impressions. I've said it for a number of years, and I've even put it in writing. The Claxton community on the EMS side is underserved. So that's definitely one thing I'm very interested by. We put an RFP out. Catherine Ashmiri did a really good job on that, putting that together. It has not been awarded yet, but we did put an RFP out to get a study done to make sure our stations are maximizing their response to where the responses are happening. So much more to come from that, but it definitely is an idea. For me, like I said, I think Claxton needs more coverage than what they have. Now, what does that look like? I can't tell you that. I have my own ideas. I think they're great. Some people question it, but I think they're good. But we're going to try and put that together and make sure that we have the best results for the county. So it's a project really to kind of the early infant stages.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Fritz.
I was just going to say, I like the agreement that the purchasing committee did on the contract where they wanted to extend it to, maybe wait before they approve it and everything, because when you look at $2,200 a month, you expect something very elaborate for that type of money. And anything that's not elaborate, in my opinion, is fleecing of the county. So when you look at that, I'd like to see, maybe what are we paying for all of our stations, and are we getting, what we're paying for?
Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Commissioner Isabel bringing this up, and Nathan, you bringing it up and thinking about Claxton. Definitely, I think you're correct. We need some, not saying it's bad, but it'd be nice to have EMS located in Claxton. I think with the location of Raccoon Valley Road and Edgemore and Clinton Highway, many may know my wife's on the Claxton Volunteer Fire Department as chairman or whatever she is. She's I'll probably get in trouble for saying it, but I hear a lot of calls now, and I get to hear the radio calls come in, and I hear all the things they're doing. And quite honestly, I didn't probably pay a lot of attention to that before, and it amazes me what EMS and the Sheriff's Department, but volunteer fire departments, what they do for no money. So I guess the question I wanted to follow up with, I'm in support of that, Nathan, if I can help in any way, but for Jay and the mayor, do we have an update on the property there where next to the school? Has that been finalized with the property transfer from the school department to the Claxton Volunteer Fire Department, that piece in the back?
Yes, sir. We got a survey from Jim. I guess it's been about a month ago on a Sunday. We're gonna have to take that to the Planning Commission. It's subdivision of one single lot. So I don't think it's gonna be a big deal, but we're gonna have to get on the Planning Commission agenda. But the paperwork's no big deal, but I do want to comply with our own zoning resolution.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
I don't see a problem there. The school system has already voted to give that property to Claxton Volunteer Fire Department. There's really no hurdle other than just an approval from the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Jay, and I appreciate you doing that. And Mr. Chairman, just kind of to follow up, I know it's years down the road, but with TVA, I think they would be interested if that school goes in and things move along. I think TVA would love to work with the mayor and EMS, and maybe we could get a new building there at that location if it comes to fruition, and we don't stack a bunch of ash there, but it's just a thought. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, old business, I think Director Turner pretty much covered the COVID-19 update for us. I know, Mayor Frank, thank you for forwarding out the new judicial rules. Pretty much about everything's been lifted, I think, for now. So got that. Next, under old business, we've got just an update on the witness rooms and storage for the files in the DARC building. Is that, oh, Commissioner Wendell.
Yeah, one last thing under old business. When we're doing the meeting, does any of the agenda or the finances still show up on television?
It's just too small of text to just have to show up from moment to moment. I don't know how we can get it on there big enough without, I mean, I couldn't get past one page if I tried to put it on here as
Mr. Chairman, and not trying to delay anything, but I think it would be advantageous if we could at least get, you know, some of those financial pages, not necessarily the whole run-in list of things, but, you know, I think it'd be good for the citizens to see how much money's in undesignated fund balance, how much is in the solid waste, and all of those things. I think it'd be good for them to have. Of course, they can go online and get it, but it'd be nice if we could figure it out.
We could probably get with Robbie and get the slide of just the summary to.
Well, I was gonna say, if, do they have one that comes with the agenda?
Yeah, there's.
Robbie's usual part, I guess you're referencing what kind of comes with Robbie's thing, right?
Yeah, I'll let the chairman get with you and y'all can
Yeah,
figure it out.
there's usually like a.
Something out there, at least a reference to where it's at, so people can go automatically to it and find it online.
Thank you, thank you. Mayor.
You can work on that.
True.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't know if that was yours or if somebody else was wanting to bring up just the update.
Yeah,
on
I
it.
didn't have anything on there, so, on the witness rooms, I do plan to bring that to operations in June. I had printed this out for operations. I had just put it on the operations agenda, in case anyone had a question about it, but I'm happy to distribute, what I have here. So we did have a meeting with, the judiciary, Commissioner Yeager, who serves on, our committee, the sheriff, the DA, I can't remember now who all was at that meeting, but at Roger, and we went over potential options for the witness rooms with those folks. Then I think at that particular meeting, option A was the preferred option, but then I sent the options out to those members who could not be in attendance that day or who failed to show up. And so we had a little more feedback. We had another meeting, and the option, a new option was actually created out of some of the discussion. The DA and one of the judges wanted some particular changes. So we do have, I'd only have 8 copies of this. I apologize if you want to pass around. This is the preferred option. But again, I always like to come back with a professional presentation for you. That will be the request at the operations level. But you can see, actually, I shouldn't have given away my last copy there.
You need one too?
So, as you come off of the elevator, this is coming off the elevator. And you would step in, so you would have dedicated, these are files that Mr. Cousins and Mr. Lynch still would like to keep in there. And then the Chancery Court person who pulls the files would be at this location. And then there would be a separate, you walk in, so this would be more secure for the witness rooms. There would be 2 in the back and 2 in the front. And then those dotted lines, right now, we're in the process. The reason I haven't submitted this to you for final approval this month is I have sent it to the ADA committee first to review before it comes to you all. So that is the preferred option that I'll be asking your permission on once it has the ADA approval. Storage or filing cabinets, I'm not aware of anything. The election office moved all of their materials down there. They did request some shelving, so we got that. If there's something else, I haven't been made aware of any other needs.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Yeager.
A few weeks ago, before the purchasing committee, I asked if the county had any storage facilities that we're paying money to store things at.
Oh, okay, okay.
And Catherine said that we're spending $200 a month at the one down the street here. And it's just old computer equipment that they sell in batches. And I said I'd be happy to take them down to the DARC building for free, because for us to be paying storage anywhere doesn't make much sense.
Right.
So they haven't taken me up on the offer yet, but I just want to let you know that we can save $200 a month.
Absolutely, yes.
By using something down there.
Very good.
Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, last week, I had conversation with Roger Lloyd. Had stopped in for a cup of coffee. And what he had told me was that there was evidently a need, and Hal Cousins did bring this up at the HR advisory meeting the other day. There are a lot of his files, old files, that don't require, nobody's calling to ask for copies from, that are at the Darcy building that need to come off the floor. And I think what they were talking about as far as shelves are concerned was that Roger has money set aside for that sort of thing, and he was just needing the go-ahead to go ahead and build what is being needed for Hal Cousins, and I think Rex is taken care of. There was somebody else that had stuff down there that was old that just needed to come up off the floor. So I think that was the issue with shelving.
Commissioner Denver, I made a presentation in budget about the need for a shelving unit.
For your offices.
For my
Oh,
office.
absolutely.
I've got the old banker box style that they slide in, so as soon as I get this new unit, I'll be able to move those down to Daniel Arthur. If it's truly just banker boxes, it's made for banker boxes. And we can take those down there instead of surplusing them. They're still in great shape.
Well, that certainly would help.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's, if you look at that packet that I sent out about my budget, it's got some pictures of the existing file room in there. You've seen them before.
Yes, I have.
And you can see what we're dealing with. And I'll be glad to take those down just as soon as we can make the transition.
Okay, thank you.
Any other old business? Motion to adjourn. We only lost a couple. We did pretty good for the first time back.